The Life of Louis Armstrong, written by Christopher Tellerick, narrated by Tabias Pittman. Louis Armstrong was born on July 4, 1901. However, for his entire life he told everyone he was born in 1900s instead. He was born in the great city of New Orleans, Louisiana, the birthplace of jazz. He was born into a poor family who lived in a rough part of New Orleans known as the back of the town. His father left his family when he was just an infant. His mother then left Louis and his younger sister Beatrice Armstrong Collins in the care of his grandmother. Around age 5, Louis returned to live with his mother. He had attended the Fisk School for Boys. Many people believe this is where he was first exposed to music. After school, Louis would sell discarded food to restaurants, and he made some money as a paperboy. However, this was not enough money to keep his mother off the streets working as a prostitute. In an attempt to make some extra cash, Louis started to haul coal for Storyville, the famed red light district. He would listen to the bands playing in the brothels and dance halls. He dropped out of the Fisk School for Boys and joined a quartet of boys who sang for money. Cornet player Bunk Johnson claims to have taught him to play by ear. However, Louis always gave credit to Joe King Oliver. He didn't start to develop his cornet playing seriously until he joined the band at the New Orleans Home for Colored Waves. He was often sent here for delinquency, but his most notable reason was for firing his stepfather's pistol into the air at a New Year's Eve party. In 1922, Armstrong made a trip to Chicago because he was invited by his mentor, Joe King Oliver, to join his band. While playing with Oliver, Louis lived like a king in Chicago. After a while, Louis was encouraged by his wife at the time, Lil Hardin Armstrong, to move on and play for bigger and better people than Oliver. So, taking his wife's advice, Louis left Oliver's band and joined Fletcher Henderson's band in New York. Henderson's band was considered the top African American band of the day. During this time, Armstrong made many recordings of his own. His friend from New Orleans, Clarence Williams, arranged these recordings for Louis. After a while, Louis and his wife moved back to Chicago and started the Lil Hardin Armstrong Band. The group consisted of Kid Ory, who played the trombone, Johnny Dodds, who played the clarinet, Johnny St. Cyr, who played the banjo, his wife Lil, who played the piano, and then Louis himself on the cornet. Armstrong was now able to develop a style of his own. He was no longer required to listen to the leader of the band and match his type of playing with anyone else. However, Armstrong had a very easygoing band leading style. St. Cyr said that when you work with him, you feel relaxed, and he always did his best to try and feature each individual. Armstrong started to play with Erskine Tate's Little Sympathy, which was actually a quintet. They played mostly at the Vendome Theater. They played a lot of jazz versions of classical music. This helped give Armstrong practice with longer forms of music and playing in front of large audiences. He began to scat sing and was the very first person to record it. His song Heebie Jeebies features Armstrong scat singing and was so popular that it made the Small Quintet the most famous jazz band in the US. Armstrong eventually separated from Will. After doing so, Armstrong started to perform at a place called the Sunset Cafe. He played for one of Al Capone's associates, Joe Glasser, in the Carol Dickerson Orchestra. He played with Earl Hines, who played the piano. The orchestra was later renamed Louis Armstrong and his Stompers. Hines was still the musical director and Glasser still managed the band. Similar to his trumpet playing, Armstrong's vocal innovations helped serve as a foundation stone for the art of jazz vocalist. His voice had a uniquely gritty coloration. His voice became a musical archetype that many people tried to imitate and impersonate. Armstrong's career lasted 30 years. He played on average around 300 gigs a year. But sadly, during the 1940s, bookings for bands started to decline as public taste began to change. Ballrooms started to close down, and there was a competition for new genres of music and from television. It became next to impossible to support and finance a touring band. After a long and successful career, Armstrong finally decided to settle down permanently. In 1943, Armstrong, along with his newest wife Lucille, settled down in Queens, New York. Even after settling down, Armstrong continued to develop his playing and make recordings for Hoagy Carmichael's Rockin' Chair for Oka Records. His last show was at the Waldorf Astoria's Empire Room. On July 6, 1971, Armstrong died of a heart attack in his sleep. Sadly, he died at the age of 69.